Rajesh, what do you mean by that shady plot? You just mute your audio. I think it's a very you know irritating. Okay, making a kind of a noise. Okay, so let's talk about this topic, which is called a shady plot. And before we jump to the topic, let me point out this is the kind of a story, a shady plot, which is written by Elsie Brown. Um, provide you can say that more on humorous than on kind of a thrilling, right? So this text, which is indicating about what indicating about some of the characters, right? And some of the you can say that humorous conversation, um, and also you can say that a supernatural appearance, right? So before we go to the text, let me point out the first question which has been asked um, in the textbook is what, matching the words, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So, and we can find out that what we supposed to do, we need to match the words or expression with their correct meaning, isn't it? So, in that case, let's look at the first one. What is it stated? Apparition, right? Apparition, apparition. So, what do you think that? What do you mean by apparition? Apparition would be known as a supernatural appearance of a person or thing, a ghost, or you can say that phantom, right? That is the meaning of apparition. So, apparition, apparition means a supernatural appearance. Similar to that, the second one is called as a poltergeist, right? What do we call to it? It is known as a poltergeist. So, when we talk about poltergeist, poltergeist is nothing but referring to a German word which means called as a noisy ghost, or troublesome spirit that announces its presence with unexplainable sounds and the creation of disorder. Isn't it? Poltergeist that we call. It's a German term. It's a foreign phrase. Did you understand that? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. I was speaking, but with my ears. Yes, sir. You are audible, and I understood.
Okay. So let's move to the next one. The next one is what? That's called as a clairvoyance. So when we talk about clairvoyance, which is known as the supposed power to see objects or events that cannot be perceived by the senses, right? So apparition, poltergeist and clairvoyance. Apparition का मतलब होता है supernatural appearance, जो लाइक यू कैन से भूत हम जिसे कहते हैं या तो स्पिरिट कहते हैं. सो दैट इज नोन एज अ मीन्स apparition. और पोल्टरजेनिस्ट ये एक जर्मन वर्ड है, जिसका मतलब होता है कि जो भी सुपर पावर हैं जो आपको प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करते हैं, सो उनको ही पोल्टरजेस्ट कहा जाता है, नॉइजी घोस्ट हम कहते हैं. सो थर्ड वन इज कॉल्ड एज ए क्लेयरवॉयंस. क्लेयरवॉयंस का मतलब होता है कि the kind of a power that able to see objects or events that cannot be perceived by the senses, right? um, so that is clairvoyance. And the next is called as a crystal ball. When we talk about crystal ball, what is that? It's a globe of a quartz crystal in which images believed to portend the future are supposedly visible to fortune tellers, right? Then the fifth one is called as eerie. The meaning of eerie is known as a कि जो कि मिस्ट्रियस होते हैं, स्ट्रेंज होता है और अनएक्सपेक्टेड, आज टू सेंड अ चिल अप द स्पाइन. सो जिसके वजह से आपको पूरा थरथरा लगे, कि दैट इज व्हाट कॉल्ड एज ईरी. ईरी फीलिंग, चिल्ड होना, और मीन्स मिस्ट्री, फीलिंग लाइक अ मिस्ट्रियस और स्ट्रेंज. एंड द नेक्स्ट वन मीडियम. So medium हमें पता है, a person through whom the spirits or of the dead are alleged to be able to contact the living. So किसी के जरिए आप किसी के साथ बात करते हो, then that is known as a medium. Then next one is called as a transmigration. So what is that transmigration? That called as to pass into another body after death, right? From going from one state of existence or place to another. That is known as a transmigration. So एक बॉडी से दूसरे बॉडी, राइट, डेथ के बाद जो जाता है उसी को ट्रांसमाइग्रेशन, ट्रांस का मतलब होता है बियॉन्ड, माइग्रेशन का मतलब बियॉन्ड द प्लेस. नेक्स्ट इज कॉल्ड एज साइकी. साइकी का मतलब होता है मेंटल प्रोसेस और एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी मेंटल प्रोसेस, राइट. और यू कैन से दैट किसी के जरिए मेंटल थ्रू द टेलीपैथी, through the senses you talk to other, that called as a psyche. Next is called as a ouija board. ouija board एक ऑब्जेक्ट है, और यू कैन स्पेलिंग बोर्ड, स्पेलिंग बोर्ड डिवाइस, जिसका काम होता है कि कम्युनिकेट करे किसके साथ, ना स्पिरिट के साथ, स्पिरिट वर्ल्ड के लोगों के साथ, एंड उनके यू कैन से दैट उनका क्वेश्चन का आंसर जानने के लिए, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ouija board. It's a kind of a magical board. Right.
Sir, it's an interesting board game.
Yeah. So next it's called as a exorcist. We know that a exorcist क्या होता है? That's called as a conjurer, right? So exorcist वो लोग होते हैं जो evil को बुलाते हैं, right? Who and also who expels evil spirit by conjuration, right? उनको exorcist कहा जाता है. So नेक्स्ट इज कॉल्ड एज अ प्रीमोनिशन. प्रीमोनिशन एक फीलिंग होता है, और एक एंजाइटी होता है फ्यूचर के बारे में जानने के लिए, अ फीलिंग ऑफ एंटिसिपेशन ऑफ, यू कैन से दैट एंजाइटी ओवर अ फ्यूचर इवेंट. नेक्स्ट इज कॉल्ड एज अ पैरानॉर्मल. सो पैरानॉर्मल का मतलब होता है कि when you do not you know when you do not when you can say that
Sir,
yeah,
sir, sir, premonition means a feeling of anticipation or anxiety of future event.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
because pre का मतलब before होता है, right? So uh, so when you feel or you anticipate that something is going to happen in the future, so that is known as a premonition. पैरानॉर्मल का मतलब होता है कि बियॉन्ड द रेंज ऑफ नॉर्मल एक्सपीरियंस और साइंटिफिक एक्सप्लेनेशन, जिसका साइंटिफिक एक्सप्लेनेशन आपको मिलता नहीं है, जो साइंस से बाहर है, उसको पैरानॉर्मल एक्टिविटी भी हम कहते हैं, राइट. सो दैट इज व्हाट पैरानॉर्मल. टैरेट कार्ड is nothing but a set of 22 playing cards that have nothing but a picture representation used for fortune telling. So जो लोग फ्यूचर के बारे में डिस्कस करते हैं तो उनके पास में कार्ड होता है. The next one is called as a vampire. So what is
So
vampire?
Jayanti,
Uh,
Jayanti, that Bhagya Bhavisha comes like that. He like shows three cards and then this. I don't like it actually. I see my grandparents saying that, so I first imagine that what are these cards from which
yeah, they
they
do have
also.
a pictures, no, omen picture and something like a mythological picture, right? So that is what known as a you can say a tarot card. And the last one is called as a vampire, a reanimated corpse. Can you switch mute your audio? So vampire,
That's I have been.
vampire is what? Vampire is a reanimated corpse that is believed to rise from the grave at night to suck the blood of sleeping people. So that is known as vampire. Okay.
And vampire is the reanimated corpse.
Corpse का मतलब होता है body, reanimated body.
Dead body.
That is believed to rise from the grave at night to suck the blood of sleeping people. Understood?
Uh, uh, am I a vampire?
Uh-huh.
Am I a vampire?
Why you are not a vampire? Why do you think
No,
that you are
sir.
a vampire?
Whenever I bleed, I start tasting it, like how the blood is tasted.
No, no. Okay, fine. Now moving to the next one. Mm. Uh, so when we talk about the topic which is called, can you mute your audio?
Yeah,
Mute your means mute your audio. That is, making a kind of a noise.
is this kind of fan noise?
Yeah,
Fan noise. I can't switch off the fan. I can switch off.
yeah. So if you talk about that topic, title as a shady plot, you could find out that the words shady and plot, um, and what we can make an educated prediction about the story. A shady plot by L.G. Brown. The word shady suggests nothing but a setting or situation. Shady means a setting or a situation that is either physically shaded or hidden and possibly involves something suspicious or in questionable honesty. Right? The word plot can refer to a piece of land, a storyline, or a secret plan, often with a negative or secretive connotation. So, in that case, the word shady and plot have a different meaning altogether. So, you can say shady का मतलब क्या हो सकता है कि हो सकता है किसी का शेड हो, राइट, फिजिकली शेडेड और हिडन, एंड पॉसिबली हो सकता है कि कोई एक चीज सस्पिशियस हो, राइट, सस्पिशियस मतलब डाउटफुल और क्वेश्चनेबल हो, राइट, एंड प्लट का मतलब जगह हो सकता है, पीस ऑफ लैंड हो सकता है, और स्टोरी लाइन हो सकता है, और सीक्रेट प्लान हो सकता है। और शेडी एंड प्लट, इनका मतलब भी नेगेटिव और सिक्रेटिव कनोटेशन हो सकते हैं। Now, if I talk about a shady plot, it is likely a story that involves a mysterious or secretive situation. So, ये एक ऐसा story है जो जिसमें you can find out mysterious or secretive situation, possibly dealing with what supernatural or ghostly elements. Right, supernatural or ghostly elements means this story deals with nothing but the ghost. It might involve a character that meets a ghost or trying to communicate with the spirit world. So ये करना क्या चाहता है कि यहाँ पे जो character है, so that character is trying to talk to spirit world using a plot of you can say that or making that into a kind of a story, or means you can say that there could be a secret or a doubtful scheme at the center of the story, perhaps involving a what, a seance. Seance का मतलब क्या होता है कि a kind of a magical chant, magic chant आप करते हो, जिसकी वजह से आपका मीटिंग किसके साथ होता है, घोस्ट के साथ, और a plan to uncover or hide something supernatural. So the story may revolve around, revolve means what? That move around suspense and the revelation of a hidden truth related to ghostly appearance, or you can say paranormal activities, right? So that is why you can consider it's a shady plot, right? Now, understand that when we talk about the story a shady plot, what this story is all about. If I talk about a shady plot, so here you also find out some characters are there. So what are the characters that you find out? um, as it is a humorous ghost story which is written by L.G. Brown about a struggler. Struggler means वो जो struggle कर रहा है, जिसका नाम है जॉन हैलॉक, एंड ये जो स्टोरी है that explores the theme of writer's block and the supernatural. So ये किसके बारे में डिस्कस कर रहा है, supernatural, and while it is discussing about the supernatural with a comedic test or comedic twist, right? And this particular story brings with the some setting and characters. So what do you mean by setting and characters? Setting का मतलब होता है कि कौन से जगह में हुआ है, and characters, who are the characters who play the role here. Now पहला character है जॉन हैलक. Now ये जॉन हैलक है कौन? Now he is the protagonist, and you can say that a writer who is known for ghost stories. सो यहाँ पे जॉन हैलक एक राइटर है जिनको लोग जानते हैं किस हिसाब से कि ही इज अ वेल नोन राइटर फॉर घोस्ट स्टोरीज. सेकंड इज कॉल्ड जेनकिंस. ना जेनकिंस कौन है? ना ही इज एन एडिटर ऑफ अ मैगजीन दैट frequently publishes John's stories, right? Then you meet another character whose name is called as Lavinia. So who is Lavinia? Lavinia is the wife of what? Whom? John Hallock. जॉन हैलक का वाइफ लाविनिया है, who is interested in who is interested in what? New fats. New fats means what? New items, like one of the item is known as a Ouija board, right? Then you find out the fourth character whose name is called as a Helen. Now who is Helen? Helen is a ghost from the writers inspiration bureau, right? So who helps writers with their stories. Now when you talk about that Helen, so you can find out John Hallock and Helen. So these are the kind of characters who perform very well, even Lavinia too. But here the main character is called as John Hallock. Now अगर मैं इस स्टोरी के बारे में बोलूं, सो ये स्टोरी बिगिन किससे होता है ना? जॉन्स कंफ्यूजन, जॉन्स डायलेमा. सो द स्टोरी बिगिंस विथ व्हाट? जॉन हैलक, जो कि हु सिट्स डाउन टू राइट अ घोस्ट स्टोरी, राइट? जो कि बैठा हुआ है घोस्ट स्टोरी लिखने के लिए, क्योंकि उसके जो एडिटर हैं जिनका नाम है जेनकिंस, सो ही हैज आस्क्ड फॉर अनदर सुपरनेचुरल स्टोरी टू हुम ना, supernatural story, another story which could be written by means John, right? So Jenkins ने means डिमांड किया है जॉन से एक स्टोरी, सुपरनेचुरल स्टोरी लिखने के लिए. आज John's ghost stories are popular with the public, so despite his reputation, John has no idea, and often you can say that it depends on mysterious inspiration that has inspired him before. So what he's supposed to do? He's supposed to write the ghost stories, but he needs also some kind of a mystery in his ghost stories, and he takes the help for that, right? Now that is known as a John Hallam, right? So, and who is working for his editor, whose name is called as Jenkins. Next is called as the ghost appears. Now when you talk about the ghost appears, we can say that while thinking, right? While thinking over his writing, so John Hallock sarcastical का मतलब क्या होता है? Criticizingly or humorously. So John here sarcastically or humorously comments whom? Comments on the joys of writing. So and a voice response. So at the same time, when he sarcastically made a comment on the joys of writing, so उसने जब एक ऐसा कमेंट दिया जो कि क्रिटिसाइजिंग जैसा है, तो उस टाइम पे क्या हुआ? एक वॉइस उसके रूम से निकला. सो एंड अ वॉइस रेस्पॉन्स टू हिज क्रिटिसिज्म. व्हाट इज दैट? ना टू हिज शॉक, एंड यहाँ पे क्या हुआ ना? जॉन हैलक गॉट सरप्राइज, एंड what did he see? He sees a ghostly figure, right, forming in front of him. So a particular shade of the ghost that able to form the shape of the human being. So he sees a ghostly figure forming in front of him. And who is that ghost? The ghost is none other than Helen, right? And who appears in, you can say that, who appears in what? Not always or not frequently. So here you would find out that the ghost Helen, so who appears in sections by sections, means every interval, right? And the ghost looks also quite odd, and her fishy eyes means that called as a small eyes, right? So you can say that her fishy eyes and bone rimmed spectacles means even you can find out that the girl or that the spirit who have a very small eyes and also wear the kind of a unrimmed spectacles, right? Okay.
Sir, are fishy eyes like this? Fishy eyes.
Mhm.
Sir, do fishy eyes look like this?
Yeah, well, you can say that very small, right? Very small, and also like what do we say that? Yeah, I can see your picture. I can see. Yeah, that's what you can say. Fishy eyes, right? So even you can point out that. Ah, ah, ah.
I have I drew this Helen, so this is my version of Helen.
Yeah. So you can find out that the ghost is a Helen who appears in sections and looks quite odd, and quite odd with her what? Quite with quite odd with her fishy eyes and bone rimmed spectacles. What do you mean by bone rimmed spectacles? It means the ghost also wear the spectacles, right? The writers in, uh, the writer's inspiration bureau, if you look into the next one, what is that? Helen explains that what she is part of the what writer's inspiration bureau. So when we talk about the writer's inspiration bureau, so the meaning of it is called as a Helen becomes the part of means writer's inspiration bureau, and a group of ghosts who help writers find inspiration, right? So however, means Helen informs John that they are going to do the strike because Ouija board fanatics are bothering them too much. Helen demands that what John John stop his acquaintances. John stop his acquaintances means John's acquaintances or friends, you can say. So who are using Ouija boards? Uh, here, who are doing what? Who are using Ouija boards? If he wants their help, right? So जब जब भी उसके दोस्त लोग मीन्स उसके हेल्प चाहते हैं तो उस टाइम पे वो क्या करते हैं आउजा बोर्ड यूज करते हैं राइट नाउ if you talk about the first one is called as John's dilemma, the second one is called as uh, Helen the ghost appears, then the third one is called as the writer's inspiration bureau. Now we understood that what is that the writer's inspiration bureau. Now you can say that Helen is a part of the writers inspiration bureau, and these writers whenever they need any kind of a help, so whom did they search none other than Helen, right? And how do they call? Now they call the means you can say that Helen through the Ouija boards, right? So we also say that the next character who is called as a Lavinia, right? We understand that Lavinia's purchase, right? We know that who is Lavinia? Lavinia is none other than John's wife, Lavinia, who comes home with a Ouija board. So now, if we observe that Ouija board was not present at home, so it was brought by Lavinia. Lavinia comes home with her Ouija board. So we know that Lavinia is the wife of John, right? John Hiller. So here Lavinia come home with a Ouija board, excited about her new purchase. So he bought something new. Uh, and that's why she was excited. She believes it will help John with his writing by contracting historical figures, right, for inspiration. John is horrified, and John knows about the ghost strike. John को पता है कि ghost लोग strike में हैं, and John tries to convince Lavinia to get rid of the board, right? So who is means trying to convince whom? You can find out John convinced Lavinia to get rid of the board, right? So the Ouija board party. After that, you would find out that Lavinia uh, throws a Ouija board party with her friends. Now we know that who is means what do we say that who is Lavinia? Lavinia is none other than means wife of John Hallock. So Lavinia throws a Ouija board party with her friends, and John is doing what? Now hesitation. John feels nothing but a hesitation. So John reluctantly drawn into participation during the uh, session. So the Ouija board spells out the word traitor and Helen, causing confusion and suspicion among the guests. Now, if you observe that what, when we talk about the Ouija board party, what do we find out? We find out that the character Lavinia, uh, who throws a Ouija board party with her friend. Ouija board party means what? Now, because of the Ouija board they have, so they wanted to experiment on it. So that's why means who Lavinia throws a party to his friend so that her friend would come, right, and they would participate in the what do we say that participate in the calling to spirit, right? So John is a hesitation into participation. During the session, we find out that the Ouija board spells out the word traitor and Helen, causing confusion and suspicion among the guests. So in that case, what happened when they use that particular Ouija board? So the Ouija board used the kind of a word which are nothing but called as a confusion to the people and suspicion among the genius, right? Then finally, what happened? We find out the ghostly encounter. So, what do you mean by the ghostly encounter? The meaning of the ghostly encounter is called as the meeting with the ghost, right? So, we find out that as the Ouija boards in the room start calling at John's name. So they did it in the night time. So they call the spirit. And what did they find out? When they use the Ouija boards in the room, starts calling out John's name. So automatically the names have been called out. Or the first name called is called as John's name. Chaos spread everywhere. Lavinia, along with her guest, right? It's a surprised or confusion. Each puzzle means confusion. And also you can find out that uh,
I find out what.
hmm, so, what do we find out? That the ghostly encounter, we understood Lavinia along with her guest is puzzled and suspicious, right? So, as the Ouija boards in the room start out John's name, chaos continues, right? Lavinia along with her guest, right? They all were confused and also doubts about the messages from the Ouija board, right? So, feeling got overwhelmed and embarrassed, John flees from the room. John immediately left that room. So, Lavinia leaves. So, the next morning, what happened? John finds out a note from Lavinia and saying she is leaving. She is leaving to stay with her grandmother. Who? Lavinia. And her lawyer will contact to whom? John Hallock. Now, why such kind of a separation occurred? The separation of occurs between the two are what? If you talk about that, or John flees from the room because means they find out the spirit, they call the spirit, and how the spirit tells the truth. Right now, if you see that Lavinia lives, the next morning John finds a note from whom? Lavinia, and that note saying she is leaving to stay with her grandmother. Now, why does it happen? Now, because when all the people gather together and they call the spirit by using Ouija board, at the same time, the spirit came out and how the spirit told all the truth. And that's the reason makes the create contrast between the Lavinia with her husband John. So in that case, and as it happens in the night, right? So in the early morning, what happened? You find out the reaction is what? Now Lavinia left the home, or left home. The next morning, John finds a note from Lavinia, and in that note, it is written she is leaving to stay with her grandmother, and the lawyer will contact him. Despite and distraught, John wishes he were dead, right? Desperate and distraught. So desperate means we understand that. So with a full of interest and also distraught, John thought that what? He were dead, right? So he were dead means what? The ghost was dead. Now, next is called as a Helen's ultimatum. If I talk about Helen's ultimatum, now who is Helen here? So Helen, if you talk about that, Helen is the spirit. Helen appears. meet John about the confusion caused by the Ouija board. John requested with her to help fix this situation, but Helen insists that he convinces everyone to stop using Ouija board, right? Because everyone is using Ouija board in silly question and puts him in problem or difficulty. Helen then explained that Jenkins was what responsible for the uh, ghost stories coming to John, as the bureau had been help. You can say that bureau had been helping him all along, right? Now, in that case, we understood that how Helen's ultimate, you know, Helen's ultimate means identification and uh, how Helen has been invited to John Hallock's room. So then you find out resolution. If you talk about that, John realizes that he must talk to Lavinia and explain everything. Now, who is Lavinia? His wife. As he quickly went to find her, Helen was uh, Helen was worried. Helen was worried him one last time about the strike. John is left. You can say that contemplating how to manage with Lavinia and convince Lavinia to abandon the Auja board. Right? Convince Lavinia to do what? Now convince Lavinia. Um, to abandon the outer board. Now, in that case, if you talk about this particular text, the text, a Shady Plot, presents some kind of a themes and style. Like you can say, this particular story is comedy, filled with comedy, and you can say that supernatural. So the story mixes very fun with the supernatural, making light of typical ghost stories, right? Ghost story genres. And if you talk about writer's book, the narrative explores the struggles of a writer in each of inspiration, adding a fantastic bum, uh, or you can say that fantastic twist also, fantastic bump or twist, you can say, or change with the introduction of ghostly helpers. Now in that case we also find out communication and misunderstanding, that is also there. Like you can say the story highlights what the fun miscommunication between the life and death, as well as between John and his wife, right? Because his wife believed that what now her husband has an extramarital affair, because she did not know Helen was the spirit. So in that case, when the author had a kind of a conversation with the ghost, so at the same time his actual wife gets into a kind of a jealousy, right? So that is what the story you could find out. And finally I would like to say that a Shady Plot is what a uh, light-hearted story that cleverly uh, join the you can say that join the challenges of writing with the ghostly elements, and leading to a humorous exploration of creativity and the length one might go to find inspiration, right? So the story ends on a hopeful note, um, with John determined to resolve his issues with Lavinia and finds a way forward in her or in his writing career. So that is what nothing but called as a kind of a idea about a Shady Plot. Are you getting something from the story?
Yes, sir. I got everything.
So I just give you nothing but a kind of the whole idea of the text. Right, we will discuss dialogue by dialogue. Right. Mm. But
Mm, but sir, is it written in the story in the text that what the Oja board said?
yeah, it is written. No?
What exactly the Oja board said? Is it
See,
written?
let me tell you, outer body is a what? It's a kind of a object. By using that outer body, people call the spirit, right? And sometimes what happens, sometimes good spirits are there, sometimes bad spirit are there. Now why good spirit and bad spirit? Now because when you want to fulfill your wishes, you call some means some people or magical people who use the outer world and try to predict uh, try to predict that what happened in the past or what is going to happen in the future, right? And finally what happened means they use also certain object to call the spirit. But sometimes what happened, these spirits um, they they come to they come, and but the problem is called as they don't uh, they do not even leave that place. They create nothing but problem to the person who is calling or who are calling to this ghost, right? So that is what here also happening the same thing. Uh, if you talk about that the logical structure or evaluation, so we can find out the whole story is indicating as nothing but introducing the situation or problems, right? Second is called as the middle part of the text, which is trying to elaborate the situation and how the girl or how means how that spirit tries to close with the writer and create a kind of a you know, jealousy to Lavinia. And finally, Lavinia did nothing but left the room, left the house, and sent a kind of a note, divorce note to whom? To the writer. But finally, when she came to know about the actuality, so she asked forgiveness, right? Or she asked for apology. That is what the story of, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting very tired today, but I don't know.
Sir?
Nothing. Do I look like sleepy?
Yes, sir, you do.
Mm, I feel like that.
Anyways, it never affected my explanation, so I'm okay with it.
Hey, Shabash. You have a master's?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for noticing, sir.
Mm, you have a
I'm happy.
master's. And you have a very good left side, that one tooth, you know, that the left side.
No, sir. Actually, I have two of my incisors sharp, if you ever notice.
Yeah, it's a very sharp. And it's also clean.
It's, sir.
It's clean.
It's kind of like awkward, but it is inherited from my father. So
Mm.
sometimes it pierces through my tongue.